5 people in. Yeah. Already got 5 in. Thanks, Dad.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2019 Provincial All Candidates Forum. The Youth Encouraging Lasting Leadership Youth Council has hosted 7 forums since 2007, and we are excited to continue the tradition. We have a very exciting night in store, so please get comfortable and enjoy the evening. Before we begin the formal program, I would like to ask that throughout the forum, we stay respectful to the candidates, their platforms, and their parties. Heckling, disrespect, and rude behavior will not be tolerated. In the interest of time, please hold your applause until each candidate has finished speaking. I would also like to ask that for the duration of the forum, all phones are either turned off or put on silent. Lastly, the emergency exits are located to your left, and the washrooms are located out of the doors that you came in from to your right-hand side. We would also like to acknowledge Sean Fisk and Carrie Ann Sproul, who will be live streaming this event, as well as Alex Free, who is providing sound, and the many other volunteers who have contributed behind the scenes. My name is Radosław Wysocki, and I am honored to be the MC of tonight's event. I am a grade 12 student at Chestermere High School. I've been the chair of the Yale Youth Council for the past 2 years, and through my involvement, I've had the privilege to create relationships with amazing mentors, civic leaders, and community members. In my spare time, I love taking care of my garden and reading. In the future, I hope to go to the University of Calgary for biomedical studies and become a practicing cardiothoracic surgeon or an epidemiologist. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce our youth panel, who are all members of the Yale Youth Council. I would first like to introduce Caitlin Helder.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Helder. I'm the Secretary of Yale Youth Council. I'm 18 years old and a grade 12 student attending Tyndale Christian School. I have been living in Chestermere for around 7 years. I joined Youth Council this September as a way to make an impact in the community. Through Youth Council, I have developed new leadership skills and learned a lot about the other youth in my community. In the future, I hope to attend Mount Royal University to study interior design. In my spare time, I like to read and play the ukulele, and I'm looking forward to voting for the first time in this election.
I would next like to introduce Gurnaz Billing.
Hello everyone, my name is Gurnaz Billing and I'm a school representative for the St. Gabriel Archangel School on Yale Youth Council. Engaging within my community is something that I hold to value and one of the reasons I initially joined this council. Yale has taught me the importance of leadership, youth advocacy, and has allowed me to make many connections that I would not have thought I could make. It has allowed me to grow as a person and taught me life skills such as problem solving that I will never forget. I would love to pursue medicine after I graduate and work in public services to help people and give back to my community. I am interested in politics, and aside from volunteering and serving Yale Youth Council, I like to play sports, paint, and read books.
And I would finally like to introduce Lydia Koch.
Hello everyone, my name is Lydia Koch and I am in my final year of high school at Tyndale Christian School. I joined the Yale Youth Council as a student representative because I saw an opportunity to get more involved in my community and meet new people in my age group. The youth-based leadership atmosphere in Chestermere really drew me in, and I have so far loved working with all my fellow team members. Outside of school, I spend most of my time running and volunteering at a long-term care facility, as well as spending time with my friends and family. After high school, I hope to attend Mount Royal University and receive a Bachelor of Nursing so that I can pursue my dream career of becoming a registered nurse. And I also look forward to voting in this year's election.
I would now like to invite all of the candidates for their opening statements. Candidates, you will have 90 seconds to deliver your opening statements. When you see the orange card held up, you have 60 seconds remaining. The yellow card means you have 30 seconds. And lastly, when you see the blue card, it means that time is up and your microphone will be cut. Audience members, please hold your applause until the end of their statements. Now, I would first like to introduce candidate Fildebrandt of the Freedom Conservative Party.
First of all, I want to really thank these incredible youth from Yale for putting on tonight, showing that young people are passionate in Alberta and our democracy. I'm Derek Fildebrandt, I'm the leader of the Freedom Conservative Party, and I've been the MLA for Strathmore Brooks for the last 4 years until we were combined together in Chestermere. I love Chestermere. After Strathmore Brooks, it's probably where I've spent the most time over the last 4 years. I'm running because the people in this constituency deserve the right to choose their own MLA. They deserve the right to have an MLA selected by you, grassroots Albertans, not party leaders. I'm running because Alberta needs not just to get rid of the NDP. We can't go back to the way things were in 2015. We need a bold conservative alternative that doesn't take prisoners and isn't afraid of the media or the left-wing parties. My nickname in the legislature is Dr. No, because I'm the only MLA who voted to cut his own pay, that voted against Trudeau's ownership of the pipeline, that voted against race and gender quota legislation, that voted against cutting oil production, that voted for against more NDP legislation than any MLA in Alberta. I'm not a career politician. I'm not here to tell you what I think you want to hear. I'm here to tell you what I stand for and what I think is going to make Alberta great again. Thank you.
I would next like to introduce candidate Avramenko of the Alberta Party.
Thank you. My name is Jason Avramenko from the Alberta Party, and I would love to talk to you about our policy. Our policy is extensive and brilliant and wonderful, and it has new ideas for us. We're an innovative party. We're a new party, but it is very long. It is longer than the UCP and the NDPs combined. So instead, I'm going to tell you a story about last last Monday in Strathmore when we had a forum as well, and the moderator asked a question that scared me more than any other question, and it wasn't directed at me, it was directed at the audience. And the question was to the audience before the forum had even begun, it was, who here has already decided who they're voting for? And 70% of the people raised their hand. Because without even listening to the answers, without even listening to the policies yet, they had already decided who they were going to vote for. But there was 2 people there. My 2 volunteers at the very back wave. So my 2 volunteers who have given their time, like freely to me, didn't raise their hands because I told them at the very beginning that you should not vote for me if my policies don't align with you. Never vote for a party that doesn't align with you, but always vote for what you believe in. So what I'm trying to say is that there can be great ideas anywhere and we should stop with the party politics. The Alberta Party does not believe in party politics. The Alberta Party will steal any great idea the UCP has, and we voted 30% of the time with the NDP because when they have a brilliant idea, we will support it. We want what's best for Alberta, and we have innovative, brilliant ideas to do so, and I hope you're going to listen to them. I hope you'll search them out. Thank you.
I would next like to introduce candidate Aheer of the United Conservative Party.
Thank you. Thank you to all of the group from Synergy for putting this on. This is a huge undertaking. I have had the privilege of living in this community for 42 years. So many of your faces are friends to me. I've taught some of your children. I have cried and mourned with some of you. I have been at your homes on some of your best and worst dates, sung for many of your weddings and funerals. The biggest privilege that I've had has been learning about all of these different communities. I think the biggest privilege that happens for us is that when we have the opportunity to take public service, that we have these incredible people come in and influence the way that we create public policy. You are the people that help us to determine the go forward in policy. The electorate is so much more powerful than they think, and we are not here without your blessing and without your vote. It has been my absolute privilege to have worked in many of the different portfolios, everything from energy to children's services. And what I've learned throughout all of that is that servant leadership is what matters. That's a collaboration. I was one of the very few opposition members to be able to pass a piece of legislation unanimously in the legislature on adoption. So thank you so much for your trust in me up until this point. I very much hope to be able to gain your trust and to go forward and to be able to represent you in the legislature. Thank you so much.
I would next like to introduce candidate Langmaid of the New Democratic Party.
I heard there was a Calgary Flames game tonight, so I thought I would break out the red blazer and represent. So I realized that many faces in this room are new to me, and you don't know me very well, so I'm going to spend this introduction introducing you to me. I'm a 5th-generation Albertan. I was born in Fort McMurray to an oil and gas family, and I've lived in small Alberta towns for the majority of my life, including Strathmore, where I've made my home for the last 4 years. I'm an environmental professional who believes in industrial development and environmental stewardship, and that they can go hand in hand. And I think Alberta's done a great job of demonstrating that to the rest of the world. I'm running in this election because I care about our communities. They're growing fast. Chestermere, Langdon, Strathmore, they're all massively growing. We're welcoming so many families each year. So we not only need jobs, a strong economy in this province, but we also need the supports and services like education, healthcare, and the family supports that we need to stay strong and vibrant in these communities and allow them to keep growing. If elected, I promise to fight hard for the things that Chestermere, and Langdon need, and to be open, honest, and transparent with each of you. And I hope that after tonight, I can earn the vote of the people in this room. Thank you very much.
I would next like to introduce candidate Walker of the Alberta Independence Party.
Hello, my name's Roger Walker, and I'm a ranch-raised Albertan, 61 years old, and 5th generation in this province. We'd like to turn it into a country for you. We need to do some very serious revolutionary changes It's got to change, or the life as we know it is going to come to an end. The carbon tax, an unproven science. H2O, carbon, and sunlight are the building blocks of life. You just can't get away from those simple facts. It looks to me like a tax that's used to move your wealth from you to the governments. These are the issues that we need to look at. GST, it's got to come to an end. It's a tax on a tax. It's unconstitutional. It's just unfair. We need to get a pipeline, Gateway, Northwest, and Energy East. These are things that Alberta needs, and it's not going to happen if you leave it up to someone else. We need a party of people that are Albertans, that are invested in their children's future, your children's future, because it's all about the family of Alberta. For Albertans, we're going to have a flat tax of 20%, over $45,000.
And finally, I would like to introduce candidate Nichols, who is running as an independent in this election.
Hello, everybody. I'd like to thank very much the Youth Council for inviting me today. I didn't expect it. As an independent, non-aligned party person, my goal is to get rid of party politics. I believe it to be the root cause of all our woes, and I'd like to see it gone. So I'm here for two reasons. First reason, to bring this an option to your attention that I refer to as the AIM option. I've got literature here today for you to peruse. There's a website available you can take a look at. It's going to outline my platform with regards to removing party politics from our political system. And the second reason why I'm here is to offer you my independence. As Derek has made very clear, it's not uncommon for a party politic to get elected, and then all of a sudden that vote that is supposed to be yours is absorbed into the party system, and how the party flies is how that vote flies. I'm here to say that that won't happen with me. If you give me your support, then I will provide the support that this community needs. If my prediction is correct and a UCP minority government is formed, then that leverage could be greatly enhanced by me using that vote to get the things that we need. A high school for Langdon, social service and expanded services for our hospitals and our communities here in town. And as well as the other communities that are also profiting within this riding. My intention is to make that happen and to promise independence.
Thank you, candidates, for your statements. Let's move into the question period. In this section of the forum, members of the youth panel will ask a question, and all candidates will have 60 seconds to respond. Our official timers will raise colored cards to indicate how much time is remaining. When the yellow card is raised, you have 30 seconds remaining, and when the blue card is raised, your time is up, and the microphone will be cut. We will begin with candidate Avramenko, and I would now like to invite Caitlin to ask the first question.
How do you plan on supporting our youth with mental health and counseling needs?
Thank you. So the Alberta Party has a plan in place, and again, I encourage you to go look at the policy in detail. But we want to decentralize a lot of what we have right now. A lot of what we have right now requires you to go elsewhere for those needs, or someone has to drive to your house from long distance to for your youth to talk to them, to go through anxiety and depression, all those things. The point is that right now we have nothing in our small towns, nothing rurally. Again, decentralizing, that's our whole healthcare plan. We need more facilities in smaller towns. And it actually ends up costing less, because right now they are traveling from the main centers, from Calgary, from Edmonton, into the rural areas in order to assist our youth. So what we need to do is actually place them in clinics in every single smaller town. That way the services are available, that way the services are known, that way that person understands that community and the person they are assisting. That way you actually build community instead of building outstretched, I lost time.
Thank you so much. It is incredibly powerful to have the opportunity to talk to parents that come through your doors, to talk about their children that are stuck in a cycle, especially with mental health. It's like having your face pressed up a glass wall and not being able to see what's on the other side. There is a need for prevention. One of those things, and one of the solutions that we're looking at, is being able to look at taking $100 million from what we have presently right now and putting it into mental health. One of the programs that we follow is the ARC program, the Adolescent Addictions Recovery Center, which talks about patient-centered care and family-centered care. When we have family members, and especially children, that are suffering through mental health or addictions, it's not just the child, it's the whole family. And it's very important that we look at that pathway to care. It's not about the structure of the system and how it works. It's about the family, the child, the entire system, the community, and all of us together. Thank you.
So I can agree with my colleagues here that it is heartbreaking to see young people struggle with mental health issues. It is something that we don't want to see in our communities. It should be no surprise to you that the NDP have committed to funding healthcare and ensuring that every person, including our young people, have access to the supports and services that they need for their mental health, because mental health is a part of your overall health. We're also looking at piloting a storefront mental health clinic in both Edmonton and Calgary, and should we see the results, it would be like a walk-in style clinic for mental health services that would support not only communities but our young people. And if we see success, we would be expanding that program across Alberta so that every young person has access to those services that they desperately need. Thank you.
Mental health and our children begin with the family. And that's who we need to take care of first, is the family. Healthy families make for healthy children. Healthy families are based on families that are not living on the knife's edge of financial poverty or ruin. The world we live in today, we're kept on that edge of loss of family just because the family breakup, the split up of parents. These are the things that harm the family the most, and that's what's causing our problems. We need to support the family.
The mental health issue, I agree, is a major issue. I'll admit openly that it's foreign to me. I grew up in a family that was pretty dysfunctional. Every man for himself, so to speak. Only the strong survive. And I've pretty much carried those lessons through the rest of my life. But that doesn't mean I don't believe that there's a problem. One of the things that my daughter has definitely taught me is that we've got issues to address in this. And I believe in family units. I believe the family unit should be supported. I believe that our communities require a more extensive base of professionals within the community that can identify problems and then address them as they come to fruition and solve these problems. I don't believe dumping a bunch of money into the problem is the only answer. We need a wide view on this, a multiple approach. Money's one. We need qualified personnel, and that's my time.
This is one of those issues where I think there actually might be a great deal of commonality between the different candidates and parties here, and I appreciate my colleagues' perspective on it. I grew up in a number of little Army and Air Force towns, normally pretty rough places without a lot of opportunity. Now, I lost personal friends to drugs. Mental illness often leads to addictions, and addictions can lead to other mental health issues, and I've seen it firsthand. I know a boy in a village that I've represented in the last 4 years. He got thrown from his horse and needed painkillers for his broken back, and he got addicted to opioids. And the supports weren't there. His mom and dad had to take out huge loans to send their kid to near Winnipeg for addictions treatment because we didn't have it here. And so this is not an area where I think the different parties are going to yell at each other and try to one-up each other, but I think there's a lot we can do to work together because we are failing our youth in mental health.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers. We will now ask personalized questions to each of the candidates. Candidates, for this round of the forum, you will meet the moderator at the podium. You will pick out one question from the box, and a member of the youth panel will ask the question. We will begin with candidate Aheer, and she will have 60 seconds to answer.
Judging by what has happened,
Judging what has happened under the current government in education system.
K to 12, how does your party plan to address the issues of child-parent-school communications?
Oh, this is a great question. Thank you so much. There are a bunch of different things that need to happen when it comes to education, and this question actually brings to light so many of the things that are necessary. Schools are natural catchment areas. They are places where our children gather. We go to see concerts. We go to see them have their displays about their science projects and all of these kinds of things. What ends up happening is that a natural relationship should happen between the parents and the teachers and the students. What has to happen at this point in time is that those hubs, those places are inviting to teachers and students and parents to be able to communicate together, because at the end of the day, those kids, those are our finest resource, our biggest investment, the most important thing that we can put our energy into. And we need to make sure that families are a part of that we are bringing families in, that we are communicating with them, so that the families are at the forefront of making sure that their children have the best things possible.
How many middle management jobs were added to government in the last 4 years?
7. I'm going to be really honest with all of you. That is a very specific question, and I do not have an answer for you today. What I can promise you is that I am a candidate that when I don't know the answer, I'll go find it out. So check out my Facebook page after today, and I'll have an answer for you.
What are your views on supporting students with special needs in schools?
Special needs. There's a lot of different kinds of special needs when it comes to supporting these children, but the first ones are the basics: reading, writing, and arithmetic. That there's nothing like a sound education, even for children with disabilities. That's their best chance to assimilate into the community and become a viable part of the community, and able to contribute. As far as what would my party do for children, we're going to support them to the nth degree. Thank you.
In the electoral process, where do you think the democratic process begins?
Sorry, could you read that again?
Yeah. In the electoral process, where do you think the democratic process begins?
Ooh, excellent question. In my opinion, the democratic process begins with you. set aside all the sacrifices that were made to get to this point. The fact of the matter is, it's you that make the decisions on who we vote for. It's you that decides who the majority is going to select the party, and it's you that drives the policies that the government believes that you want. At the end of the day, the driving force for all democracy is the voter. What happens with the vote? That's a good question. This is where it all falls apart. If you vote for a party, you're going to guarantee that that vote is going to be a party vote. It's not going to be your vote. If you vote for me, you're going to get a vote. That's all I have to say.
With the past indiscretions in the media, why should we put our trust in you to represent our riding?
A question written by a Tory, I see. You know, I'm not a career politician. I'm a normal guy. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I don't pretend to be perfect. Career politicians, the Rachel Notleys, the Justin Trudeaus, the Jason Kennys, when they screw up, they'll blame everybody else. They never take responsibility for what they do. They'll lie, they'll cover up. You can commit electoral fraud. You can do all sorts of things and they'll blame everyone else but themselves. But I'm a regular guy. When I screw up, I don't want to be a typical politician. I own what I do. I take responsibility and I don't blame anyone else. And if the professional politicians who have been in this for decades don't think that's good enough for them, well, I hope it's good enough for regular people to trust to have a regular guy as your MLA.
The UCP is pro-oil and pipelines. The NDP are pro-social equality. As a gay man with a husband in the oil patch, what makes you the best vote so I don't have to choose between a paycheck or being an equal Albertan?
Thank you. This goes to a lot what I said at the beginning, which is that we already think we understand the parties, so we don't listen to their policy. We already assume that if you're on the right, if you are UCP, that, oh, well, that means jobs. That must mean jobs. That must mean lower taxes. And if you're for the NDP, well, that must mean that you have all those fuzzy feelings and you want people to be happy and safe. And you're there for the little person. But you can have both. And it's not like the NDP didn't lower taxes on small business. It's not like the UCP doesn't believe in hospitals or education. The Alberta Party is about taking ideas from wherever they come, for taking the ideas that will actually make Alberta better. Why do I think that we're good for the oil patch? Because our leaders are people who came from the oil patch. Some of our leaders worked in oil and gas for decades. And that's why I believe it. Why? Because we have been fighting for the pipelines. But not only that, we have come up with new ideas for pipelines. Why not go through Alaska? BC doesn't want it, go through Alaska. BC and Quebec don't want it. Why don't we refine it into bitumen pucks? Why don't we refine it into batteries? That's the Alberta Party position.
Thank you for your answers. Each candidate has been provided with a card that has a green yes side and a red no side. All candidates will be asked a yes or no question, and they must respond without hesitation. Candidates cannot abstain or explain their answer until their closing address or after the forum has concluded. Yes or no? Would you take a pay raise if it was deferred to you?
Do you intend to support the continuation at the oil and gas industry in Alberta?
Yes or no? Will your party work to make housing more affordable?
Chestermere is in dire need of new schools and portables. Will you be transparent with your criteria for school approvals?
Oh, yes.
Fine.
Yes or no? Do you support the Springbank Dry Dam project? Thank you for your answers. We will now ask a second question that each candidate will have 60 seconds to respond to. We will begin with candidate Langmaid.
What is your personal position in maintaining the Catholic school boards in the province?
That's a good question. My personal position on that, personally, is that I think parents and families should have freedom of choice of where their where their children attend school, whether that's in the Catholic school program, a public school program, a private school program, or any other homeschool program that they choose. Thank you.
Repeat the question, please.
What is your personal position on maintaining the Catholic school board in the province?
Oh, well, we support all forms of schooling, public schooling, private schooling, homeschooling, and Catholic schools. I don't know why you wouldn't. That's it's an option. One group will obviously make the other group a better form of education for our children. Competition is a natural way to get a better product. Thank you.
What was the question again? Catholic schools, they're all equal. They all should be supported. My platform for a non-government system would bring forward a reform, let the people decide how they want to do it. I personally believe that all schools should be charter schools, and as a charter school, each school can define their own path. If they want to be Catholic, then so be it. If they want to teach Islam, so be it. If they want to focus on science, so be it. If they want to be sports schools, so be it. And all of them will be supported equally. Thank you.
I'm going to have to agree with Terry a bit here. I've been through the public system, the Catholic system, I've been homeschooled, I've been through it all. One of the things that makes Alberta's education system strong is our choice, and that choice has been under attack during the last 4 years with applications for new private and charter schools being denied without any good cause. I support not just our Catholic system, but all of the charter schools, the diversity of schools that we have. I fought very hard with volunteers in Chestermere to make sure we secured a 5-year land lease agreement to keep the Prince of Peace School open. And beyond that, I am committed to equal funding for every school. It could be Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, focused on trades, sports, or arts, whatever it is. Parents should have the right to determine their children's education, not bureaucrats and not politicians.
Brilliant. As a teacher at a charter school, I completely agree with some of my colleagues up here, because yes, choice is necessary. In fact, again, when you look specifically at the Catholic system, choice is wonderful, but what they don't do right now, and what there is no funding for, is conversation between the schools. The Catholic school system has different break times. They talk amongst themselves and they share ideas amongst themselves, but we're all fighting for the same students of Alberta, and there should be funding for those teachers to talk to each other, for the Catholic school to talk to the charter schools, for the charter schools to talk to each other, charter schools to talk to public schools. It's necessary for our students moving forward that we share ideas. When it comes to our students' future, we shouldn't hoard them, which is what has happened in the past. What has happened in the past is that school boards have ideas and then they get them together and they put them out into their students, but it's not shared with other school boards. It's not shared with Edmonton. It's not shared across this country, which is exactly what needs to happen, because every student counts, not just the ones in your school board.
Thank you. Supporting choice in education is one of the most fundamental values in Alberta. In fact, we are some of the best choices of our school choices in the country. A small clarification, I would actually like to thank our trustees and our parents who actively worked on the Prince of Peace program, because actually the MLAs had nothing to do with the choices that were made in Prince of Peace. It was actually our wonderful trustees and the parents that worked with Sage Properties who were actually responsible for creating that lease. None of us had anything to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you for your answers. We will now ask a second personalized question to each of the candidates. Candidates will have 60 seconds to answer. We will begin with candidate Walker.
How many government jobs would your party aim to create within its first year in power?
Well, that's a simple one. There would be a lot less if we were in power. Our government is so bloated, so out of control. After the last 4 years of job increases, I can answer that question about middle, where there have been tens of thousands of people employed in our governments that do nothing, that have no termination contracts, that if we stay as Alberta, we'll never be able to get rid of them. But as our own free nation of Alberta, we'll be able to do it all over again from the bottom up. Thank you.
I'd like to invite Terry Nichols up, please. Does your party support the empowerment of youth and the promotion of the youth voice?
Oh, that's an easy one. Boy, I'm getting the cherries tonight, boy, I tell you. This is an excellent question. But I got to remind you that I'm not a party. I don't have a party. Maybe in the next election, if I get the message out and enough independents are elected, then we can form the new government and move forward. To answer the question directly, I absolutely support youth movements in politics and business. I absolutely support any effort that the community can give a potential leader to hone those skills so that they can take the reins of command when the time comes, and do it with grace, and do it with dignity, and do it with integrity. Thank you.
Candidate Fildebrandt. Since your last double-dipping expenses, can you tell us what fail-safes you have put into play so that it does not happen again, and can you reassure us that it has not happened again?
Now, are the Tories stacking up the box here? Now, that is when I screw up, I take responsibility. But when I don't, I'm gonna call out bullshit. There was a $192 rounding error over almost a 3-year period from staff that I still took responsibility for. But then I had a thorough audit conducted, and it found that I had underexpensed and paid out of pocket for instead of taxpayers for work costs $9,000. $9,000 versus $192 that some Tory troll here is going to quibble about. You know how many stories were in the media about the $9,000 underexpensing that I paid out of pocket? None. When I see bullshit, I'm going to call it out, and I would ask that maybe the Tories write some questions to which you already don't know the answer.
How will your party promote the interests of youth in the community?
As a teacher, again, a relatively easy one. So the question was, how will you promote the interests of youth? First one is youth voice. Youth voice is something that is often neglected, especially in our smaller communities. In Calgary and Edmonton, there are dozens of organizations like YEL, and actually I'm not sure which one of you I spoke with on the phone, but the idea is that they should intercommunicate. So in Calgary, you'll find 6 different youth organizations, and then you'll find one in Chestermere, you'll find one in Strathmore, and you'll find one in all the small towns, these little ones that are trying to start, but they actually don't often communicate with each other. They don't help each other, and they don't have the funding to do so. There is travel expenses, there is communication expense, and they are actually still students. What you need to do is you have to help them speak with each other, you have to help them encourage each other, you have to help them build them up, and the way to do that, to help them communicate with each other and therefore get their voice out, is you have to give them the resources to do it. And it's not that it costs a lot of money, it's that someone has to take advantage and actually do it. That's what government is for, is to help you get your voice out. That's what we'll do. Thank you.
How will you stand up for the marginalized youth in our school system, specifically students in gay-straight alliances?
Thank you very much. It's a beautiful question. The UCP fully supports gay-straight alliances. We're very proud to be part of a government that came forward with that legislation just a few short years ago. It has been an amazing journey to learn from students and for be able to stand up for these kids. I would have to say a large chunk and a humongous portion of my gratitude actually goes to the students that are here. Quite often, especially in Chestermere and actually through Strathmore, they've engaged us on a regular basis. So this is actually about consultation, about reaching out to community, and really at the end of the day, that's what we're talking about is community. How do we instill in our communities the desire to help, to reach out, to bring people together, and to be able to be more understanding? At the end of the day, that's what all of us are looking forward to. And I'm very honored to be part of a community that honors not only marginalized students, but small communities of people, new Canadians, and many others. Thank you.
What are you hiding this time? You hid the carbon tax last time.
7. I don't believe we're hiding anything. In our last platform, we committed to looking at strategies to combat climate change and to become a leader on the world stage. And that's what we did. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. We consulted with different groups. We consulted with industry, we consulted with Albertans, and the best answer that we got, backed by research, was the carbon tax. It wasn't hiding, and we're not hiding anything this time either. The only thing I'm hiding from you today is my desire to go home and cuddle my cat tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers. We will now commence a second round of yes and no questions.
All right. Do you live in the Chestermere-Strathmore riding?
Yes or no? Do you believe in protecting the privacy and respecting the confidentiality of all youth who choose to become members of the gay-straight alliances?
Are you in favor of a provincial sales tax?
Yes or no? Will you lobby your own party to a totally inclusive and no discriminatory approach toward all policy and legislation for all Albertans?
Okay. In your opinion, are the wait times for surgery too long in our province?
Yes or no? Would you like to see the current provincial curriculum revised?
Do you support transitioning from oil and gas to more renewable resources?
That's all.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers. We will now ask a third question to each candidate, and they will have 60 seconds to respond. We will begin with candidate Nichols.
What are your party's plans to support education and make building schools a priority?
Power is working. I'm not a party. As an independent, I will support any effort to increase funding to build more schools. I know Langdon has been waiting a long time for their high school, and I would like to work hard to make that a reality, rather than keep it bump back, and other priorities taking front stage. As far as supporting education, I believe that by removing party politics from the equation, we can reduce the size of government. We can create a stronger school system by allowing communities to take direct control over their schools and provide the services that their children need that may be different from another community.
What are your party's plans to support education and make building schools a priority?
Well, I think it was Terry already mentioned the importance of getting a school built in Langdon. The lack of having a high school in Langdon is accentuating the overcrowding already here in Chestermere. And that will be my #1 local infrastructure priority if I'm honored to serve as your MLA for the next 4 years. But let me correct the corrected record as well. When the Prince of Peace School was facing a shutdown, trustees of the church and of the school and volunteers in the community reached out to me because they actually wanted someone to do something about it. Some MLAs may have had nothing to do with it, but one did. I stand up for the community, and I will fight hard every time, regardless of what any politicians say.
Schools are community building. That's what some people don't understand, is that a school isn't just a place where the students go. It's where the community uses that facility. It builds community. It helps those students who go there to build community amongst each other. It also encourages them to stay, to build up that community with their peers, to build citizenship. Schools are necessary, so yes, we support schools. And we're the only we're almost the only party up here who creates a shadow budget. So when the NDP creates a budget, we create one right next to it that shows where we would put every expenditure. So instead of being like the UCP who just says, well, we would have built the schools, the NDP didn't, but we would have, you can't actually prove it. They can't prove it, they just say it. You can see exactly that 2 years ago we would have had money for Langdon High School 2 years ago, and it may have been built in another 2 or 3 years. But again, you can't say that about any party. We are committed to building these schools. We have plans to do so, and that is what the Alberta Party believes in for our students. Thank you.
Thank you. The Langdon School has been something that we have collaboratively been working with the folks in Langdon for 4 years. They're shovel ready, they've ticked off all the boxes, they have funding from Rocky View Schools and also funding from Rocky View County. It's been an amazing project. Unfortunately, they were first on the unfunded list and got bumped, and we're not sure why that happened. And so, like all of my colleagues on this stage, it is a top priority for all of us. Chestermere High School is at 101% capacity right now. It is an imperative build for this community and a correction to the correction of the correction. I have written 17 letters to the Minister of Education. We received several letters back, but again, the credit does not go to you or I. The credit goes to the trustees, the parents, the students, and all of the people at Sage Properties who helped create the piece that we have in front of us right now. As the school was already funded, it's always been funded. It was never an issue of funding. It was an issue of a properties management, which I would like to thank again the trustees.
I have no corrections. So over the last 4 years, and I will defer here, we all know, and everyone sitting on the stage today is going to tell you that the Langdon High School is imperative. Absolutely no question. I don't have an answer for you today on why that was not built in the last 4 years, other than we are in an infrastructure deficit in Alberta. Over the last 4 years, the NDP have built or modernized 244 schools across the province, including many in rural communities like ours. And if re-elected, we have budget and plans to build another 70, including and focusing on much needed high schools. And if I have the honor to be elected as your MLA, I know I'm going to be a thorn in the side of whoever the education minister is to make sure that one gets built in Langdon. And I know that Chestermere is going to need another one quite shortly after, because the time to think about that is now, not 10 years from now.
Well, except for our independent candidate here, all I heard was hot air. Political hot air. Schools cost money. Where's the money going to come from, folks? Why aren't we talking about that? Alberta independence will keep our $50 billion in Alberta. We will make a nation of our own. And from that, we'll build those schools, and we can do it with $40 billion. We'll give $36 million to every riding county in the province. That's only $3 billion. We'll still have 37 left to work with.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers. We will now commence a third round of yes and no questions. Yes or no, will your party work to make post-secondary tuition more affordable?
Are you supportive of working collaboratively with opposition parties for the good of Albertans?
Do you believe that all school boards should be funded equally?
Do you believe that the Ministry of Education should do more to support increasingly complex and diverse classrooms? Do you believe that the Ministry of Education should do more to support increasingly complex and diverse classrooms?
Is the restoration of the oil and gas industry a high priority for you?
Do you intend to advocate for new schools to be built in Chestermere and Langdon?
Do you support seniors housing that is affordable? Thank you for your answers. As we begin to close the forum, I would like to invite all of the candidates to share their closing statements. These statements are limited to 90 seconds. We will begin with candidate Avramenko.
So I had a different script here, but there was a lot of questions there that I feel I need to answer. So when I answered no to transitioning to renewable energy, the point is that we need to be leaders in the world instead of following. So in the next 40 years, we do need to transition. We need to move. That is actually what all the economists say. That's what conservative economists say, is that we need to move to renewable energy in the next 40 years. So that is why anyone who says, yes, we don't need renewable energy, that's economically unviable in the long term for Alberta, and it's foolish if we want to be behind that. Do I live in Chestermere riding? I do not live in the Chestermere-Strathmore riding right now because I took a job at a school in Calgary that was outdoor ed related. But I did grow up on a farm. I did grow up with a large Saskatchewan family. I did work in Chestermere for a long time. And when I heard there wasn't an Alberta Party member that had yet decided to run here, I thought that was a tragedy because I think the Alberta Party really is the solution for this riding. And I felt you needed to hear that voice. And again, education. So as a teacher, I do believe education is important. We've had a lot of questions about that, but when we talk about building the school, when we talk about mental health for youth, again, we are one of the only parties, we are the only party for 8 years who have always created a shadow budget, who has always believed that we need to be absolutely transparent. So when someone says we would have done that, you can't prove them wrong, but you can prove us wrong. You can go back 4 years and say, your budget from 4 years is garbage, and we shouldn't have elected you. You can do that to us. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we get a moment to clarify our no's and yeses after at the end, right? But the transition piece is actually an important piece for me as well too, so we'll talk about that after. This province has been through so much, from economic success to deep hardship, in a province that has provided prosperity through its natural resources and small businesses and innovation, agriculture to all of Canada. We're extremely generous here in Alberta, something that lives and breathes in the hearts and souls and minds of all of our people, from generational Albertans to homesteaders, to those who grew their families here, started businesses, grew crops, raised livestock, those who moved here yesterday or 10 years ago to live under the beautiful Alberta sky. We're neighbors who care about each other and friends who break bread to discuss our problems. Across our province, we've seen attacks on our industry, workers in the industry, fast-paced policy decisions, lightning changes, and the hiring of activists that actually sit on our panels, some of the most important panels deciding the future of our regulations and deciding the future of our energy sector. The straight-up opposition to the development of our natural resources and the blind eyes to those who are suffering most with the implementation of a carbon tax does nothing to change our environmental footprint. And the question always is, was it purposeful or was it ideological? Our natural resources are not an ideology. Our way of life, our natural resources should not be politicized. This is how we live. This is how we stay alive. We as a province have a stark choice to make, and the number one requirement. Ask me later.
First of all, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight and bringing your thoughtful questions, even if they were quite specific, your open minds, and for laughing at my awful jokes. That's really kind of you. I'm really honored to be running here in Chestermere-Strathmore and to be part of Rachel Notley's team. Our plan for Alberta keeps us moving forward, focusing not only on jobs, pipelines, and diversifying the economy, but also focusing on our families and the services and supports our communities need to remain strong and vibrant for the years to come. Because in Alberta, we don't have to choose. We don't have to choose between having a strong economy or strong social supports. We can have both. We live in a land of opportunity here that I have never seen anywhere else in the world. It is possible to have everything. And it is possible for us to create one Alberta for everyone, no matter where you come from, what you look like, or to whom you pray. And as election day approaches, and I know that there is at least one person in this crowd today that has already voted, and I know that some of you have already made up your minds. Tonight, I'm asking for your support so that I can use my voice to bring your voice to the legislature. And I'm disappointed that I didn't get a more pointed question on carbon tax, because that's going to take me more than 90 seconds to explain, so please meet me at my table.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming here tonight. Secondly, I didn't parachute far to get here. You all ever travel down the number 2 highway south? I live just over the border in DeWinton. I am the more Alberta, less Ottawa guy. Those trailers are in my yard. As far as our platform, we're going to have an increase in pensions and unemployment insurance in the country of Alberta. Instead of a $1,400 maximum, we'll start at $32.88 and go to $37.50 for seniors. We'll have a 20% flat tax for over $45,000 and zero tax under $45,000. We'll have a domestic tax of 8.5% and a foreign tax of 9% on foreign companies. And we'll have all of this and much more in Alberta. A vote for the Alberta Independence Party is a triple play. You get to take out Notley, Kenny, and Trudeau.
I too would like to thank you all for joining us here tonight. I also would like to thank the Youth Council for inviting me. This has been a good experience for me, being a virgin and all to this whole political process. As you can probably tell by some of my speech, I'm not a politician. Politically correctness, not even in my dictionary. At the end of the day, I like to say what's on my mind. I like to say it the way I like to say it, and I really don't care how other people feel about that. It's called free speech, and I insist on keeping it. I spent 15 years in the armed forces. My father was in the armed forces, my grandfather was in the armed forces, my great-grandfather was in the armed forces. If you don't see a trend by now, then you're blind. At the end of the day, I'm here for you. I'm not here for the party, and I will support what this community wants. All you gotta do is raise your voice, and I'm there for you. Vote for me, you vote for independent.
Does anyone know what the score is? 0-0. All right, well, hopefully it's not 0-0 up here. But thank you all for coming, and thank you to my colleagues also for being here. Whatever our disagreements, I believe that they are all here for the right reasons, trying to serve our community and trying to serve Alberta together. We just have different visions about what that is. When I ran to be the MLA for half of our constituency on the Strathmore side 4 years ago, I made a commitment that I would always put my constituents first, not party. Now that may have angered some leaders because I've had the most independent voting record of any MLA in the legislature in the last 4 years. As I said, I'm a bit of a Dr. No, because if it's more government, I'm no. If it's more Ottawa, I'm no. One question that was not asked today was about Alberta's place in Confederation. I'm a proud Canadian, and I'm Albertan by choice, not by birth. But Alberta is getting pushed out of Canada right now. We are being taken for granted. Our money is being taken from us. The Freedom Conservative Party is the only party that that demands equality for Alberta within Confederation, the same powers as any other province, including Quebec, and that if we can't be treated equally, then Albertans should have the right to determine for themselves if we want to continue our relationship with Ottawa. If you honor me as being your MLA for the next 4 years, I promise I won't sit down when they tell me to. I will stand up and fight for you every time.
Thank you all for attending tonight's forum. We wish all of the candidates the best of luck in their campaigns. I would like to thank our sound technician, Alex Free, our video producers, Carrie Ann Sproul and Sean Fisk, as well as Synergy for their support, the Prairie Waters Elementary School for the use of their risers, and lastly, Yale for volunteering their time. As we wrap up the forum, I would like to ask of everybody to help put away their chair. The candidates will also be available at their booths until 9 o'clock to answer any lingering questions that you may have. Thank you so much once more, and have a wonderful rest of your evenings.